So you want to buy a bus company. Buy some buses, sell some tickets, watch the fares roll in. But here's the part nobody tells you. Almost every bus company in Britain would go bankrupt within months if it only earned money from tickets. The fare box barely matters. And yet, the brother and sister who started with 2 second-hand buses in 1980 turned them into a £1 billion fortune. Both things are true at the same time. And once you understand why, you'll never look at a bus stop the same way again. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly where a bus company's money actually comes from, because it isn't the passengers. Why the most famous bus brand on earth sold for pocket change. And why the boring school run turned out to be worth 25 times more than that famous brand. Let's go shopping. Bus companies come in 3 sizes, and they're 3 completely different businesses. At the bottom, a small coach operator. 5 vehicles, a yard, and an operator's license will cost you around £500,000. Your customers are schools, football clubs, and stag parties. Glamorous, no. But those vehicles can be earning the day you get the keys. In the middle, a regional operator. 100 buses, 2 depots, real routes with real timetables. Now you're spending 15 to 25 million, and here's your first surprise. The buses aren't even the expensive part. A new diesel double-decker costs around £300,000. Electric, closer to £500,000. Per bus. A 100-bus fleet is £30 to £50 million of metal that starts losing value the moment it leaves the factory. And at the top, in 2022, the German asset manager DWS bought Stagecoach, 8,000 buses, one of Britain's biggest operators, for £595 million. Which sounds enormous, until you realize that's about the price of one decent office tower in the City of London. For an entire national bus network. But before you carry a single passenger, there are costs nobody warns you about. First, the license. In the UK, you need an operator's license from the Traffic Commissioner, a qualified transport manager on the payroll, and proof of financial standing, thousands of pounds per bus, sitting in your account that you must be able to show at all times. Lose your license, and your entire fleet becomes a very long line of scrap metal. Second, the depot. Buses have to sleep somewhere, and they're enormous. A 100-bus depot is acres of urban land with fuel tanks, wash bays, and maintenance pits. In a big city, the land under your buses can end up worth more than the buses. Remember that. It comes back later in this video. Now the question that actually matters. If the fare box can't keep a bus company alive, and outside London, fares typically cover only around half the real cost of running the network, where does the money come from? The answer, your biggest customer isn't the passenger. It's the government. And it pays you in 4 different ways at once. 1. Every time a pensioner taps their free bus pass, the government pays you for that journey. England spends roughly £1 billion a year reimbursing operators for free concessionary travel. That grandmother riding into town twice a day. She's not a free rider. She's an invoice. 2. Fuel subsidy. For years, the bus service operators grant has refunded operators a large slice of every litre of diesel they burn. A grant so effective at keeping rural routes alive that governments keep threatening to scrap it and never quite dare. 3. Tendered contracts. School runs, park and rides, night routes no commercial operator wants. The council pays you a fixed price to run them. Guaranteed money, win the tender, run the route. And 4, the big one, franchising. In London, private companies run the famous red buses, but Transport for London sets the routes, sets the fares, and keeps the fare money. The operator is simply paid per mile to drive. Passengers or no passengers. A London bus operator genuinely does not care whether anyone is on the bus. The contract pays either way. Manchester copied this model with its B network. Other cities are following. So here's the whole revenue model in one sentence. A bus company is a government contractor wearing a bus costume. Which brings us to the layer of this industry nobody talks about at the bus stop. Start with the bus wars. When Britain deregulated buses in 1986, anyone with a license could run any route. So the big operators developed a tactic. When a small rival appeared, they'd flood the route with extra buses, run them minutes ahead of the competitor's timetable, and drop fares to nothing. In Darlington in the 90s, free buses appeared on a rival's routes, completely free, until the 100-year-old municipal bus company collapsed. Then, with the route to themselves, prices went back up. Regulators called it predatory. Shareholders called it Tuesday. Then there's the asset trick. Flixbus, the green coaches all over Europe and America, owns almost no buses. Local operators own the vehicles, take the risk, and drive the routes. Flix owns the brand, the app, and the pricing algorithm, and takes its cut off the top. The bus business minus the buses. And the numbers that reveal what this industry really is. In 2021, First Group sold Greyhound, the most famous bus brand on the planet, 100 years of history, for around $170 million. The same year, the same company sold its American school bus division for $4.6 billion. The boring yellow school run was worth 25 times the Icon. Why? Because Greyhound competed with everything: cars, planes, trains. The school run has one customer, the government, on multi-year contracts that renew like clockwork. In buses, boring is what gets paid. So with all this state-backed money, why do bus companies still fail? Because out of every pound you bring in, most of it is gone before you see it. Staff take roughly 60 pence. A bus company is really a peril with wheels, and Britain has been short of drivers for years, which means wages only move one direction. Fuel, maintenance, insurance, and that expensive depot eat most of the rest. A well-run operator keeps a margin of around 8 pence in the pound. This is a volume business with no room for mistakes, and 2 mistakes show up over and over. Mistake 1, debt. In 2019, private equity bought Coach USA, one of America's biggest operators, loaded with borrowed money. Then COVID emptied every bus in the world overnight. The buses stopped, the interest didn't. By 2024, Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Same lesson as every industry. Don't buy vehicles with money that charges more than the vehicles earn. Mistake 2, fighting the contract model instead of joining it. Operators who cling to fully commercial routes, where they take all the fare risk, get destroyed the moment fuel spikes, or ridership dips, or a franchising authority moves in. The winners stopped selling tickets to passengers and started selling reliability to governments. Step back and the whole industry snaps into focus. A bus company isn't a transport business. It's an infrastructure contract with a steering wheel, a machine for converting public money into private margin, with passengers as the paperwork. The fare box is the decoration. The contract is the business. Time to pull it all together and answer the actual question. How much do you make if you do this right? Scenario 1, the £500,000 coach operator. 5 vehicles on school contracts and private hire. Revenue around $600,000 a year. After drivers, diesel and maintenance, you keep maybe $80,000. Not glamorous, but contracted, repeatable and recession-resistant, because the school run happens in every economy. Scenario 2, the £20 million regional operator. 100 buses, revenue around $20 million a year, and at an 8% margin you're clearing $1.6 million, with the government supplying half your income through passes, grants, and tenders. Scenario 3, the franchise giant. Thousands of buses on London-style contracts, paid per mile, zero fare risk. Margins are thin, but on £1 billion of guaranteed revenue, thin margins still print tens of millions a year. And all the while, you're sitting on city center depot land that quietly appreciates underneath you. And if you get it right and hold on. In 1980, Brian Souter and his sister Anne Gloag started with 2 second-hand buses in Perth, Scotland, bought with their father's redundancy money. They rode deregulation, fought the bus wars, and built Stagecoach into a global giant, and became 2 of the richest people in Britain, worth the better part of £1 billion. All from the least glamorous vehicle on the road. So if you do decide to buy a bus company, just remember the golden rule of this business. The passengers ride the bus, but the government pays the fare. Make sure you're the one holding the contract.